Awesome. And what brings you to the conference at the Library of Congress today on the American debt?
Well, the American debt is the most pressing problem in U.S. politics right now. We're almost $35 trillion in debt. We'll be $36 trillion in debt by the end of the year. And that is going to become a crushing burden on future generations in the United States.
Absolutely, sir. How did you find out about this conference? Was it through the Coolidge Foundation?
Yes, I actually track everything the Coolidge Foundation does because it's just such an interesting historical perspective on how the United States government approached very similar problems even 100 years ago, even in the 1920s. And so I think that the Coolidge Foundation plays a very important role in showing us that people back then had very different solutions to some of the major problems that we face today. And we should probably look back and see what they chose to do. We should see how President Coolidge used budgeting as a tool to design the future rather than accepting a future that may not be the one you want.
On that note, is there any specific part of President Coolidge's fiscal policy you think we'd do well to look back to today?
Well, I think that the intentionality of President Coolidge and his vision for the future are the two key aspects. He famously said that a budget is like a design for the future. A budget is a thing of beauty. Most people think of that as a limiting function, but the reality is that you need to budget now for what you want in the future. You need to direct resources to their highest and best purpose. And so that does show, I think, a certain level of intentionality, but also a level of wisdom, a practical wisdom about the future, which is very different from what the government does today, which is mostly spend money on autopilot in programs which automatically grow every year based on population growth or inflation or demographics. The whole idea of entitlement spending is spending that you never review periodically to make sure that it's really serving the purposes that you want to serve, or frankly, whether it's something that you can afford as well.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of great panels today.
Oh, fantastic.
Is there any one thing that stuck out to you as surprising, or maybe the most important fact that's been brought up in our presentations today?
Well, the panels were also good, but I'm going to give the prize to David Malpass, who was our lunch speaker. David has had a long and distinguished career in Washington and Wall Street, but he was the former president of the World Bank. And he pointed out that when we deficit spend in the United States, we are sucking in capital from the rest of the world. We are pulling savings out of the rest of the world and using it just to finance present consumption, not investment for the future, but present consumption in the United States. We're used to it, we're Americans, we're entitled to this. It doesn't bother us as all. But David points out that there are many smaller countries around the world who do not have the access to capital and who are not able to finance their own internal growth because their savings are being pulled out of those countries simply because the United States offers higher interest rates. We can afford to bid those savings away. And also, of course, the credit to the United States also helps. So we are being profligate with respect to our own future. We are spending monies in ways that probably restrains our own economic growth. But the really central insight that David provided us today is that deficit spending in the United States hurts us, but makes the poorest people in the world poorer as well.
And that's extraordinarily insightful. If you were given the opportunity to tackle the problem of the American debt today, what's the first step you would take?
Well, the first thing I'd do is have a capital budget to distinguish between important investments for the future and ongoing consumption. The second thing I would do is something which former Senator Phil Gramm recommended, which is look at the consumer price index, the CPI adjustment, that is the thing that puts the automatic growth factor into entitlement programs that grows faster than real costs. So I would look at the CPI. And then thirdly, I would look at means testing programs so that while you want to preserve important programs like Medicare or Social Security benefits for those who need them. There's no reason why Elon Musk or Bill Gates needs Social Security benefits. I would means test programs in such a way that we preserve their viability for people who are not Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, and make sure that programs are in effect for people who really need them, but that people that don't really need that level of help, and not just the billionaires, any wealthy person with his own pension doesn't necessarily need the Social Security that is going to be vital for someone else.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you at the conference, sir, and my privilege to interview you. Do you have anything else you want to share?
I just want to say thank you to the Coolidge Foundation, thank you to Emily Schlaze, thank you to Bill Beach and the whole Coolidge team for putting together such a terrific meeting with speakers like David Malpass, like Paul Ryan, and of course my favorite of all time, Steve Forbes.
Thank you.
Thank you.